Good morning, church.
Good morning.
Let's start with the word of prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for bringing us all here together. Please be with me as I speak your word. Help my words to be your words, not my own. Bless us and be with us today. Amen. Amen. So, my message today is about recognizing failure. First, I want to ask the question of what is failure? In some different forms, it can be maybe not accomplishing something at the right moment, and maybe it can be failing a driver's test or failing a class. It comes in many different forms. By definition, failure is an act or instance of failing or proving unsuccessful, a lack of success. Before there was failure, there was success, and I think that's something beautiful in and of itself. Before we ever had sin in our lives, there was God. Mm-hmm. So, I want to tell you a personal testimony of my life. I got used to failure pretty young. During school, I failed my first class in the 7th grade. I failed a math class and I failed science. If you don't know how they do things now towards school when you fail a class, especially in middle school, the whole year is averaged together. So when the following year comes, if you failed a class, you make up for it only in half a semester, even if you failed the whole year. So that's what I did. I went on to my 8th grade year, and nobody noticed I had failed anything. I had continued forward, and it was like nothing happened. I did my classes, but I still had a problem that was at the center of things. I went on to high school, and like everybody does, I started off striding. I was doing great. If I try, I always do great at what I do. But along the journey, I started to slip. I slowed down, and I began to fail all of my classes, every single one. The only classes that I was passing was music, and I was passing PE. That was it. I had nothing else to show for it, and there had been meetings called. My parents knew about it. They called me and they said, "Josh, you're not doing so great." And it was halfway through the year. You failed all your classes first semester. And in high school, every semester you fail, you have to make up that semester specifically. So they're like, "You're going to have to make up all those classes that you failed. Let's go through with the second semester. Try harder this time through and see if you pass all your classes." So second semester started, and again, I didn't do too great. I started to fall behind in my classes again, and after about a month in, I was failing every single one of them, except for, again, music and PE. I finished out the year with, I think, about a 17% in math. That's how poor I was doing. I wasn't doing any of my work. I turned in maybe a quiz, and that was it. And so, next thing was science. I did a little better in there. I turned in my projects maybe, and I did okay on the test, but I pulled out like a 40. And then next was English, and English was, I like to write, so I did a little better in English. When we had an essay that we had to turn in, I always did good on my essays, but in the end, I still didn't do my homework. I didn't do my classwork as well. I didn't do my vocab, and I pulled out like a 50. So I had failed all my core classes. And so my 9th grade year had started and began, and I didn't have anything to show for it but a music credit and a PE credit. And so I started off my second year of high school. What should have been my second year of high school was actually a repeat of my freshman year. And we had a meeting before school started, and they said, Josh, you did bad last year. You didn't pass any of your core classes. You really need to buckle down and get this done. So I was like, okay, yeah, you know what, I need to do this. And I thought back to when I was in 7th grade, I had failed, those classes, but back in 8th grade, I made them up again. I was like, I can get back on track, I can do this. So I started off doing great, A's in all my classes, doing well, and I felt great, I felt good. And then suddenly along the stride, it hit me about halfway through the first semester. All my friends had done what I'm doing last year. One try, they did it. And here I am doing it a second time through. And so I got discouraged. Depression hit me, and I didn't want to go to school, and I didn't want to do any work. But I loved that school where I was at. It was amazing to me. I had all these friends there. My teachers were great teachers. And around that time, we got a phone call. Well, Dad got a phone call, I guess. And they came to me and they sat me down and they said, Josh, we're moving to Cocoa, Titusville area, Cocoa Beach. And I was like, most people would be excited about that, especially where we were coming from, in the middle of nowhere. But I was so mad, I didn't want to leave. But it didn't matter, they had made their choice, so we got in the car halfway through the year and we came over here. And the church welcomed us, and both here and Titusville were very warm, but I didn't want to be warm for them, I didn't want to be here. I wanted to be back with my friends. And on top of that, I was still doing poor in all my classes. So I went along and just kind of sludged through things. I pulled out a D in English class. So on top of what I already had, I had a PE, a music credit, and half of an English credit that was a D. I finished out the year and I was just done. I went to my room, I closed the door. I didn't want to do this anymore. I just gave up. So from that point, of course the thought comes in, well, if you've given up, what's your next course of action if this isn't what you're going to do? So I had this great plan, I thought, to go up to my parents and say, Mom, Dad, things aren't working out in school. I'm 17 years old. I have 3 credits to show for it, and I need to drop out and do my GED. And I had this whole argument prepared. I was ready to go. And I thought, this is going to convince them, and there's going to be no arguing with it. They're going to see where I'm at. So I went up to them and I presented my argument, and not even halfway through, it was, no, that's not what you're doing. And so I was like, okay, that didn't go as planned. So the next thing that happened was we had to go to the school to schedule me into my classes, and I thought for sure the counselors are going to look at where I'm at, my age, where I'm supposed to be, and they're going to say, this kid doesn't need to be here. He should go to an adult ed program, get his GED, something like that. He can't be at the school district. And good for me, not good at the moment for me, I guess. I was wrong again. So I got there and we told the counselor what had happened. She looked over my credits and she said, well, we can do this. And I was like, well, I don't want to be here an extra 2 years. I don't want to be behind my class and all that. And she said, no, we can go forward with it. And it's like, at every moment that I wanted to give up, there was a voice that was saying, you may have given up, Josh, but I haven't given up on you.
Oh, wow.
Amen.
So they didn't necessarily convince me, but I was in there and I was in my classes and I was on the road to finish what I had started. I had, like I said, a music credit, a PE credit, and a D in English class. And I started my freshman year for the 3rd time. And this time it wasn't no first thing out the door, start out great, I'm gonna do amazing. It was a slow start. I did okay. I made it through. I had to jam on a bunch of classes. I think I had to do 18 credits last year. which a normal year is about 7 credits. So I did a little over twice what I would usually do. And so I went to school and I accomplished that, and then I went on, and I had less credits that I needed to make up for, still had a little extra. There was little failures every single day. I wish I could say that it was just, okay, yeah, I'm on the right path, let's just keep going. But there was always times where I wanted to just give up, stay at home, where it seemed too close. In fact, this year, I had made it to the second half of the school year, and always these surprises when I go into my counselor's office. She told me, Josh, you're doing great, you have most of your credits, there's one class that you haven't taken yet that you need to take. And this was March. We're only over a month and a half from graduation, and I'm like, March, you want me to do a class from now till the end of the school year. And she gave it to me. And it was difficult. Even there, I was like, you know what, if I don't graduate on half a credit, that's fine with me. And I was like, I made it this far. But I ended up accomplishing it, and I graduated with my class. And it was something that helped me get motivated to realize that even when I fall back, I can always get back to where I need to be. But, so, what would make this all a lot easier is from the start, seeing that I was heading down the wrong road, that I needed to turn around. And I have a quote that I want to read you. When doubt seeps in, you got 2 roads. You can take either one. You can go to the left or you can go to the right. And believe me, they'll tell you, failure is not an option. That is ridiculous. Failure is always an option. Failure is the most readily available option at all times. But it's a choice. You can choose to fail or you can choose to succeed. You can plant seeds. You can say, keep moving, plan ahead, focus now. And that is the road to success. Or self-doubt and negative talk. And that is the road to failure. But failure is always an option. And it's okay to recognize that. So, even with that going, in the grand scheme of things, God always wants us to be successful, but that is not God's true idea of success. God has a different plan for us. He wants us to move forward in a different path, even though He wants us to go through with the things we've started. And I want to read to you a passage in Matthew 25. Verses 14. Okay. For it will be like a man going on a journey, who has called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made 5 talents more. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 more talents. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid the master's money. Now after a long time the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. He who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents, here I have made 5 more talents. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little, I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And he also who had 2 talents came forward, saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents, here I have made 2 more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little, I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also who had received the 1 talent came forward, saying, Master, I knew to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours. But his master answered him, You wicked and slothful servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give to him who has the 10 talents. So God has his own picture for us in his life. In our lives, he wants us to go forward and do his works and grow in the faith. And like the different service, some of us go forward and we produce twice as much as what we were given. We had 5 talents and we produced 10. And some are a little slower and they produce 2 more talents. But then there are those of us who sit and just do nothing with it. We bury our thing in the ground and we give it nothing. And so there's no interest on it. God's purpose for us is to help others. And sometimes we think we know what God wants us to do, and when we allow those thoughts to enter, we should pray the prayer that David prayed. I want to take you to Psalms 139. So David starts out by saying, O Lord, you have searched me and know me. Then he goes on in verse 7 to say, Where shall I go from your spirit? Or where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. If I say, Surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light about me be night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is bright as the day, for darkness is as light with you. For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you. When I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written every one of them, and the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none for them. And then he goes on to say in verse 19, he's judging, not judging, but he's seeking to work against those that are against God. He thinks that God should slay them. And he says, Oh, that you would slay the wicked, O God. O men of blood, depart from me. They speak against you with malicious intent. Your enemies take your name in vain. Do I not hate those who hate you, O Lord? And do I not loathe those who rise up against you? I hate them with a complete hatred. I count them my enemies. And after he says that, he goes on to recognize something in himself. And in verse 23 he says, Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any grievous way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. So, when we're down that road, no matter how dark or how shallow we might seem, God's always there. He's never too far behind us. We think he's way in the other direction, but we just turn around and he's right there. I want to close with my verse, my scripture reading. It says in Romans 3, verse 22 and 23. The righteousness of God through faith in Jesus Christ for all who believe, for there is no distinction. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, and are justified by his grace as a gift through Sorry. For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So, if we recognize where we are in our lives and we see that we're heading down the wrong road, it's never too late to turn back. There's always something there for us. For all of us have sinned and fallen short of God's glory. There's no difference.
Amen.